What's going on, everyone? My name is John, and I'm a filmmaker slash creator and your host for Make Limited Podcast, where we talk about how to change our circumstances when life happens. In other words, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Today, we're talking about facing your fears, which I believe will encourage you to be brave. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. I am so pumped today for our podcast, which is Facing Your Fears. This is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, only because it's been on my mind about facing my personal fears. And this is something I think that we all have humanly in ourselves. We have something that we dread, we have something that we fear. It may be something physical, it may be something that we picture in our minds, it may be a thought, it may be an idea, it may be whatever it is, it's something that we fear. And so today I want to kind of come into the aspects of what I have done in facing my own fears and how I've worked through them. And this is what this podcast is about. So I'm going to share what I've done, and I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned from, like for example, movies, what I've learned from other people, and perhaps some books that I've read. So, with no further ado, let's get into facing your fears. So for point number one, I want to talk about self-control. Now, if you have ever watched the movie where Will Smith and his son come out in the same movie, I don't recall what the movie is called at the moment, but it's a movie where Will Smith at the time is like a leader in this new world that they live in, and his son is trying to live up to the expectation that his father has put in his life. And his father is a person without fear, and that he's able to kill these monsters without having any fear, because in some way these monsters smell fear. They're blind, but they can smell fear in people, and that's what they kill. And so Will Smith has been able to manage and control his fear, and he's able to kill this monster that terrorizes the people and kills anything that shows fear. This is the most interesting part about the whole process, is when they actually come back to Earth, because the spaceship got destroyed and this was the only place that they could go back into. Now, people at this time have not been able to, well, have left Earth, and it's been years already, and people from Earth have done colonies in some other place, and so they return back to Earth unexpectedly. Earth is different from the atmosphere that they're at, so their body is very different. It doesn't take the same as we do now. And so the point is that he comes to this point, Will Smith's son, Jade, comes to this point where where he's panicking, and his dad tells him these words that make him always control himself in the situation, is this where he's at. So he always tells him, take a knee. Throughout the whole movie, when the son is having trouble thinking, he can't think, take a knee. We're talking about facing your fears today, okay? And when it comes to this process of when Will Smith tells his son in this movie to take a knee, the one thing that comes to mind is self-control. And this has been true for myself as well, and really coming into an area where you have to be in control of your emotions, you have to be in control of your thought process, and you got to be in control of your reaction. These are one of the most important things when facing your fear. Why? Because if you are a person who frights easily, you tend to jump with no conclusion. And sometimes, it's accidentally something happens, someone gets hurt, you get hurt, whatever the case is. One of the great examples is people who are scared, like insects, spiders, cockroaches, and they will yell, they will jump on anything that gets them away from that specific insect that just scares them, and they will yell, they will scream, they will try to kill it with whatever they can, and this is the reaction that one gets. What I have learned in my process, my own experiences, has been that self control is always the key. Is it always something that works? No. But if you have self control of yourself, you're able to control the situation that you're in. And this is the beautiful thing about this. That's why self control for me has been a huge thing when it comes to anything. And even in the Bible, it talks about one of the first things to have for a person is to have self control. And this is like, this self control goes on everything, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to be disciplined, whether you're trying to be successful. Self control comes at every spot. Because when you're trying to be successful, the number one thing that you need to think about when you're, like, for example, if you're starting a business, you need to think about not how the business is going to run, right? Because ultimately you're trying to sell. The main thing that you're trying to think about is your control on how you manage your money, because that's the number one thing that's going to keep you going. You starting with your own money, you're starting with either a loan, but you need to know how you spend it, how do you manage it to have self-control. And this is where it comes to facing your fears. And this is the one thing that Will Smith's telling his son in this movie: take a knee. Because why? He needs to control himself. He needs to come to his right mind to be able to think about the situation, which is number two, which we're going to right now. So, with no further ado, let's go into number two. Alright, guys, so we talked about point number one, which was self control. Point number two is assess your situation. And this is the second part where Will Smith tells his son in this movie, which is his real son, tells him to assess the situation. What is his surrounding? What's around him? What can he smell? What can he see? What can he hear? What can he touch? And this is getting in touch with all your senses. This is getting in touch with your mind, body, and spirit. Assessing your situation. In any situation, when it comes to you, you got to face the fact that it is a fear that you are facing, but you need to first have self control of your situation, not the people, not your whoever's around you. You need to have self control. Second thing you need to do, it's assess your situation. One of the best advices that I've ever gotten has been from my brother, where he has ever told me to find the perfect. It goes like this. It's because I have it in my head, but it goes like this: choose your battles, not find, but choose your battles. And this is something that I have learned that has helped me a lot through every situation that I've gone through, because I need to know how to choose something, when to attack something, and when not to. And this has gone a lot with self-control in different areas where you feel strong and you want to and more of a guy situation, right? For example, you're trying to play sports, basketball as for an example, and all of a sudden you get shoved by someone else that is like 10 times bigger than you, and automatically your inner self wants to get angry and like fight back, right? Throw punches, throw this. But you got to choose, are you going to right now risk your life your face, your body with the person that is 10 times bigger than you? Or are you going to know that it's a physical sport and you're going to keep playing? That's the part that you need to choose. And now that was a very vague explanation or an example, but what I want to point out here is when you're assessing your situation, when it comes to facing your fears, you assess how you're going to go about it in looking around your area. What is around you at that moment? What can you see? What can you hear? What can you smell? Even though those are things that maybe in smell won't come into the process, but it can. My point is, you got to use those senses to really give you a point of what's going on and how you can come into facing your fears. So that's the main key about point number two is looking ahead and really look at the issue that's going on. What is your fear about? What does your fear involve? Why does it involve? How did this fear start? And how can you go about facing it? And not every fear is easy. It's not every fear is hard to overcome. There are some fears that are very, very hard to really get over because it's something that you have to work on a daily basis. But this is something that I have come to my sense of knowing that when I'm facing something that I'm afraid to do, I gotta assess what I know. And one of the things that I remember when I was a kid, I remember when I went to a swimming pool and they were teaching us how to swim. And I remember that I would see kids would swim without any floating devices, and I was just in fear of doing it. And then there were some kids also who were jumping off the tallest diving board and just jumping in like if it was nothing, without no floaty, without anything. And I remember the one thing that I did. Number one, I assessed, am I gonna swim without a floaty and make it across? Or am I going to go in the water, swim across, and make sure that there's someone out there to like help me if anything happens? And so I did. I actually took off my floaties. I made sure that one of the instructors who was there was looking at me, and I told the instructor what I wanted to do, and I was observed on crossing from one side of the pool to the other side. And mind you, we were in like I believe it was about 5 feet or maybe 6 feet deep. The pool. And remember, I was a kid. I was like probably like 2 feet tall or something, and I was swimming in this water that seemed very deep for me at the moment. And I end up swimming across. It was the hardest thing ever, but I did it and I made it, and I faced something that I was super afraid of. But again, I assessed my situation. I assessed, can I do this? Am I prepared to do this? I already had been getting some swimming lessons, so they had moved us from the kid pool to the bigger pool. So I knew that I could swim better and I could get across a little with a little supervision. If I needed any help, I knew the supervision would be there for me to swim across. So again, assess your situation because it's going to help you when you are facing your fears at every moment. So, assess the situation. Now, let's move into point three. Now, point three is something that I really want to emphasize on it, and that is moving forward. I believe that when you are facing your fears, it is important that you rise above the situation in every circumstance. And this is important because when it comes to the part of you rising up, is it's actually the hardest part because point one is you are really having self-control. This is when you are in yourself, trying to, maintain and really control yourself before you move ahead to the next step. And in the point number two, you are assessing your situation. You are looking around. You still haven't moved. You still haven't done anything. You are looking at what is around you. And moving forward is the most important part. There was this, and this is something that it's a little bit aggressive what I'm about to say in the example I'm going to give you. So please, of you can forward this part, or it's just something for me. It's aggressive because I was watching, and here we go. I was watching a video on Facebook, I believe, or no, it was on actually on TikTok. I was watching a video, and the video was about a dog, and it was very very crazy because it was like this. The title, I believe, was "I can't believe this happened to this dog, poor dog," something like that. And if you've seen it, you've probably seen it, but it's very disturbing. For me, it was very disturbing because I was wondering what was gonna happen. And so there was a dog sleeping in the front steps, and then there was like a, I guess like a, it was like a really high building, so there was like stairs to go up, but you really didn't know how tall the building was. All you could see was the stairs to go up and down, and so the dog was sleeping in, like, I guess in like an apartment in the front doorsteps, and out of a sudden, out of the blue, a leopard comes out, a tie, like one of those cats, leopard cat, was coming from the downstairs, and it was looking at the dog, trying to like see if the dog was gonna wake up, if the dog was gonna fight back, and it was kind of like saying, like, when I was looking at it and observing, it was like, am I gonna attack this? And I thought that this was gonna end happily, like the dog was gonna stand up for itself and bark at it, run it off, the door was gonna be open and the owner was gonna come and defend the dog. And when I was observing, I saw that the leopard was looking at it and was like trying to look for a place of attack, because as if you don't know how cats attack, they actually go for the neck, where you breathe, where they can squeeze it and they can suffocate the the whatever they're hunting, and so they can die faster. And when I was looking at the dog was as if he knew there was something in front of him, but he didn't want to open his eyes. And out of a sudden, this leopard takes the dog on. The dog can't really do anything because the cat already has the bite down, and then ends up taking it away. And the owners come out looking for the dog, and they run. One owner runs after the dog, and then the video ends. When I saw this video, I was devastated. I was just in awe that this video was even allowed. But I realized a very, very um, strong point when I saw this video. And I believe that this is something that sometimes when it comes to like our biggest fears is how we feel. We feel like there is something in front of us. We have our eyes closed, and we believe that if we just keep our eyes closed for the longest time, it will go away by itself. And sometimes we really need to open our eyes and face our fears. Because if we keep our eyes closed, the same thing can happen to us when this leopard came and just took, the poor dog. And I talk about this in one of my podcasts when I talk about change. And one of the things that I say in this podcast is that if you don't make the change is going to make you. And simply what that means is that if you don't take initiative to do something about your situation, that situation is going to build up, and ultimately it's going to build up so much that you're not going to be able to manage it, and it's going to be overwhelming, and sometimes it breaks people. It breaks people emotionally, physically, and they get sick. They go to the hospital. They come up with something, and their health goes down, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. It's like a car that needs fixing, but you don't fix it, and then at the very end, when you do take it to the mechanic, you have like you thought it was one thing that was wrong, but it ends up being like there's like 20 things that are wrong with your car, and you could have prevented it by taking it earlier, but you didn't. So my point is that moving forward is the key here, and this is the part where you have control of the situation. You open your eyes, you see yourself in front of your fear, and then you need to assess. You need to control yourself, assess, and then move forward. Move forward into the action that you want to come to. What did you figure out that you could do? Were you saying, this is it? The enough is enough. I need to do this. I need to start my business. Enough is enough. I need to move forward into my next step in my life. Enough is enough. I need to change my health. Enough is enough. I need to really, get down and get a job or something, and move forward into making a plan so that I could be where I want to be, where I always say I want to be, but I'm afraid to take those steps because I don't have that money, or I don't have the capability to do it. Life is just a breath that we take. It's like a mist, is what the Bible says. A mist that you just it's in the air and then it's gone. Life can be long, or life can be short, life can be enjoyable, life can be horrible, but it's up to us of how we want to come with it. So do we want to live life in fear, or do we want to live life in strength and boldness and braveness? I don't even know if that is even a word, but my point is, live life brave, live life strong, live life knowing that you can face anything and overcome. And the part is that we not only overcome mentally, physically, but we overcome so that others can also see what we overcame and be encouraged as well. It's a ripple, is what I like to say. With everything that we do, it's a ripple. It doesn't matter what it is. When we say good morning to somebody, it's a ripple of goodness. It's a ripple of sharing that positivity. And that positivity and negative is really important, because you either produce positive things or you produce negative things. And this is why it's super important to really move forward into facing your fears, into facing, maybe you want to go to school and you think you're too old for it. Well, you need to face it. Because if you wait to be older, guess what? Now you're 10 times older than what you were when you first wanted to start. But again, like the way things that I like to say is, if you still have breath in your lungs, you still have time. So no matter what it is, no matter where you're at, face your fears. And that is point number 3. And now we can move into the conclusion. Alright guys, so you have come to the end, and I'm so glad that you stuck with me. We talked today about facing your fears, and the one thing that I wanted to encourage you in this was that in facing your fears, that I believe that it will encourage you to be brave, to be courageous, to face it full on and not be afraid that you're going to fail. That is what I wanted to encourage you today. So I encourage you into the 3 things that I have learned from experience, what I have learned from others, what I have learned from movies that have matched my belief. And these are stuff that I have been using in my life for years now, and I can say that they have worked 100% every single time. And it's not an easy process. It's like they say, it's easier said than done. It's not an easy process, okay? I don't want to say that every process that I've done has been completely like super simple as I just went through it. No, the process took time. It was something that I had to be patient with. And at that moment, the process was not the thing that failed. It was my consistency of continuing with that persistence that failed. So this is what I talked about today. When you are facing your fears, there are three things that you can do. And the number one is, first, have self-control. The one thing that I learned from a movie that and connected with that belief was one Will Smith and his son, and what he told him is take a knee. So wherever you are, if you need to take a knee, if you need to sit down, if you need to take a breath, if you need to close your eyes, take a knee. Have self-control. The second thing was assess your situation. Look around. What's around you? How can we fix this issue? How can we solve this situation? How can we look at this and have the best way that we can come into an agreement? How can I move forward in getting this job? How can I move forward in starting my own business? How can I move forward to, going to school? Or how can I go forward into making the next decision that is going to be good for my life? And lastly, we talked about taking that step of moving forward, and that is the most important part, because the first two steps deal with the mind, deal with you thinking, deal with you having that control inside of you, because it starts within before it goes out. And number three is the outer one, where you move forward and you take action. And that's what we talked about today, because I want to encourage you that you can do it. You can be brave, you can be courageous, and you can break those fears that may be holding you down or may be holding you back. And you know that you need to face them, that you need to come head to head with them and be brave. Don't let the panther take your dreams, take what you always had in your life, but go out there and do the change, and don't let the change you. And that's for today, guys. My name is John with Make Limited Podcast today, and I hope that this was encouraging for your life and encourage you to be brave. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later. Peace.